Story 1. My husband, 29M, and his family disowned his mom, 56F, after her affair. I, 28M, didn't. Now the emotional consequences are taking a toll on my marriage. Need advice. I'm 28M, and I've been with my husband, 29M, for 7 years, married for almost 1. Our relationship has been genuinely wonderful. I love him deeply, and we've built something I'm really proud of. He gets along great with my family, and I've always felt at home with his. I'm especially close with his younger brother and his girlfriend, but the person I've always felt the strongest connection with is his mom. A few years ago, I went through a really tough depressive episode, and she was one of the few people who truly showed up for me. She didn't treat me like her son's partner, she treated me like family, and that meant a lot to me. I'm also close with my father-in-law, but with my mother-in-law, it always felt more like a friendship. Then everything changed. Just after Christmas, my father-in-law sat us all down and told us that my mother-in-law had been having an affair, and it wasn't the first time. He said he tried to make it work, but he couldn't anymore. He was devastated, and it shook the whole family. My husband and his brothers were crushed, and they cut contact with her immediately. She moved out soon after. I understand why. Cheating is a huge betrayal, especially after decades of marriage, and I'm not trying to excuse what she did. But I couldn't shake the fact that during one of the darkest times in my life, she was there for me when no one else was. She showed me kindness when I felt completely alone, and I will always be grateful for that. A few weeks ago, she reached out to me directly. She was behind on rent and didn't know who else to turn to. She sounded desperate and anxious. I helped her out. It wasn't a huge amount, but she was incredibly thankful. She asked if I'd meet her for coffee, and I agreed. When we met, she broke down. She told me that she'd tried reaching out to her sons, but none of them would talk to her. I listened. I didn't try to defend her or explain anything. I just wanted to be there for her, like she once was for me. Later that night, I told my husband about it. He completely lost it. He said I betrayed him and went behind his back, and he left the house. The next day, I tried to explain. I told him I wasn't trying to pick sides. I just acted out of compassion for someone I care about who was in a really tough spot. He didn't say much, just told me not to do it again. When his brothers found out, they were disappointed in me too. They said I crossed a line and should have respected their decision to cut contact with her. Now I feel stuck. I understand why they're upset. I never intended to hurt anyone. I just couldn't turn my back on someone who showed me so much kindness when I needed it most. I wasn't trying to undermine their pain or disregard their feelings. I just acted on compassion. I'm not here to justify what I did. I understand why my husband feels hurt, and I never meant to damage something so important. I acted on instinct and care, but now I'm left wondering how to repair things. I'd really appreciate any advice on how to navigate this. How do I move forward from here? Comment 1. Looking back at your other post and taking it together with this one, I can't help but wonder if your mom set things up so your dad would have the upsetting realization at home that all his stuff was gone. She seems to like to hurt people and creates little scenarios to make sure it happens. I'm sorry you went through this, and I hope with your dad and professional care you will have the space you need for yourself to heal. Comment 2. Hugs. He's a dry drunk with dementia. He's going to be mad at someone at all times. Comment 3. Gosh, that was tough to read. I completely understand why you needed to make arrangements for your father, and I completely understand his reaction, also. Your mom may have made it a bit more difficult for his transition, but might be going through her own guilt/abandonment issues regarding this. This is not a scenario that I would wish on anyone. Comment 4. That sounds really difficult. I can imagine, though, that if my spouse had been declining over years and I was no longer able to care for them and was facing the reality of never being able to live with them again, I might not make all of the best and most rational decisions. People do weird shit when they are grieving. Comment 5. Where you went wrong is not talking to your husband first before meeting your email. No matter if your decision was helping her out, no matter what he said, you should have still let him know first how you feel and why. Going behind someone's back and asking sorry later is not how loving relationships works. Comment 6. Probably should have talked to your husband first before going behind his back. I get you wanted to help, but he's your partner who is hurting, and you deceived him just like his mother. Comment 7. The difference between your tough time and her tough time is that yours was brought on by mental illness, depression, and hers is the consequences of her own actions, cheating. I get that you wanted to return the compassion she showed you, but you should let sleeping dogs lie. Comment 8. Imagine the tough spot your husband is in. His mom, one of the people he trusted most in his life, betrayed his family. He is probably pretty messed up about this. Now he needs your support and compassion. And he probably feels like you have turned your back on him when he needs it most. It's understandable that you would have a soft spot for your MIL. She may have been kind to you, but there are consequences for our choices. She's an adult and understood what could happen and decided to have multiple affairs, and her relationships with her family were collateral damage. This was easily avoidable. Your husband is your partner in all things. You vowed to stand by him and support him. Keep your promises. Apologize to him. Show him that he is most important to you. Tell him you will block her and work through this together. One day he may change his mind, but until he comes to this conclusion on his own, you should stand with him and always have each other's backs. Story 2. Update. My husband, 29M, and his family disowned his mom, 56F, after her affair. I, 28M, didn't. Now the emotional consequences are taking a toll on my marriage. Need advice? I didn't expect my post to get as much attention as it did, but I genuinely appreciate the advice many of you shared. Some responses were definitely intense, as expected on Reddit, but I took in a lot of different perspectives that really helped me reflect. I want to add some context I didn't include in the original post, which I now realize was important. A few years ago, I went through a really rough depressive episode. My husband and I were doing long distance at the time. He was working abroad, and while he supported me as best he could, it was a hard time. His mom was the one who showed up in person. She'd visit often, make sure I was eating, and even came with me to therapy a few times. It wasn't anything dramatic, but it meant a lot. That kind of consistency stays with you. So, when she reached out a few days ago, sounding anxious and saying she didn't know who else to ask, I just reacted. I helped her with a bit of money from my personal account, nothing major, and agreed to meet her for coffee. I didn't tell my husband beforehand, and that's where everything started to unravel. He was blindsided. We've always been the type of couple who talks through the hard stuff, so I acted completely on my own. I see now how that felt like a betrayal to him. After giving each other some space and having some tough conversations, we finally talked it through properly. He told me that he had spoken to his younger brother and got the full story about their last attempt to reach out to their mom. It wasn't just a disagreement, it was bad. She said some things that were cruel and deeply personal, things that cut deep. I had no idea about any of this. Neither of us did. Hearing that really shifted my perspective. The woman I saw during our coffee was warm, vulnerable, even a little lost. But that's not the woman his brother dealt with. And maybe both are real. Maybe she's unraveling, or maybe she's always been complicated. Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that my husband's boundaries are valid. He made it clear that he's not ready to reconnect with her and that he's not comfortable with me staying in touch with her either. And after hearing what I did, I completely understand where he's coming from. I've told him I'll step back. If she reaches out again, I'll tell her I can't be the one in the middle, not unless something genuine shifts between them first. We both apologized. He for shutting down so quickly, and I for making decisions without him when I shouldn't have. We're okay now. I still think there's something more going on with her emotionally, maybe even mentally. She's been a stay-at-home mom for most of her life. Her siblings live abroad, and from what I've heard, she's already asked her friends for help before coming to me. That doesn't excuse what's happened, but it does make me wonder just how lost she might be right now. But that's not something I can fix. Right now, my focus is on my husband and our relationship. I can be grateful for what she did for me in the past while still recognizing that she's hurt the people I love. This whole situation has been messy and surreal. We didn't walk away from it with everything fixed, but we've come out with a better understanding of where we both stand. We handled it the best we could, and at the end of the day, we're still solid. Still, I can't lie, there's a part of me that feels pulled toward the person she was for me during that difficult time. Letting go emotionally is messier than I thought it would be. How do you emotionally let go of someone who was there for you when you needed them, even when the situation now clearly calls for distance? Comment 1. Couples resolving issues like adults, talking them out, and listening to each other is always nice to see in an update. Comment 2. My mom is like that. She's capable of being warm, supportive, and loving, and she was that a lot with me and my sister growing up, but she's also capable of being cruel, selfish, passive-aggressive, and deeply judgmental. Comment 3. I think your comment about maybe she's always been complicated is probably spot on. Most people are complex, and you only see the side they allow you to. Comment 4. Consider that your MIL might not be a reliable narrator of her situation. She might be manipulating you. The fact that multiple friends turned her down before she came to you is a troubling sign. You should pay attention to that. Story 3. I'm 28F, alone in our apartment waiting for my partner, 25F, of almost 4 years to come home from a trip to break up with me. Honesty needed. My partner and I have been together for almost 4 years. We started dating back in our hometown, moved across the country for a couple of years, then came back home when it just didn't feel like the right fit anymore. Like any relationship, we've had our share of ups and downs. We come from very different backgrounds, and our financial situations have been worlds apart. We've both made our mistakes along the way, but things have been especially tough since December. We've been seeing a couples therapist, and I thought we were making some solid progress until recently. She went on a work trip to visit old friends back in the city we used to live in, and things have been so distant since she's been gone. She barely texts, and when she does, it's very short. She doesn't even say, "I love you," anymore when I say it first. Then, yesterday morning, I got a text from her saying that she'll be taking an Uber home on Wednesday night, instead of me picking her up. She said she wants to sleep separately and will be staying with a friend from Thursday to Saturday. We're supposed to talk Thursday afternoon about the clarity she's gained from her trip. Now, I'm just sitting here, filled with anxiety. I can't eat. I can't focus on anything. On top of everything, I lost my job 2 weeks ago, so I don't even have work to distract me. I don't know where this relationship is headed. It feels like it's all coming to an end, and I don't know how to cope. Do I just sit here and wait until Thursday to hear what's going to happen? Should I be okay with sleeping on the mattress on the floor when she gets back? Should I just accept that she's staying with a friend for who knows how long? I just want her to give us another chance. Honestly, I don't know what to do or how doomed this feels. Update 1. I finally called her to get a straight answer, but she said she couldn't give me one right now and that she'd call me later. I won't go into all the details of the conversation, but I'll update when we talk again. Comment 1. You're not a passenger. Tell her, I need you to tell me what's going on because dropping that vague book-style bomb on me has me feeling incredibly anxious, and that's not fair. Seriously, I need you to come home and tell me what is going on. Or at least call me and tell me. In the meantime, make your plan to exit this relationship. Comment 2. Oh honey. I have no idea what's in her head, but she certainly set you up to be anxious. Not very kind of her. Good luck. Comment 3. This is going to be hard to hear, honey. Relationships take both sides. You can't pull while someone is pulling away and end up with something healthy and sustainable. I don't actually know if it will end or not, but let me ask you something. Say it doesn't end tomorrow. Do you want the rest of your life to be in limbo, on eggshells, and waiting for the floor to fall out from you? Either way, it sounds like it's hurting you. Allow yourself to mourn. Mourn the relationship you thought you would have. Take time, do self-care, and heal. Take a few days of allowing yourself to be sad about it, whatever the outcome. Then pick yourself up and tell yourself that you are a whole person on your own. You don't need anyone to complete you. You are an individual worthy of love. Even more so, love from yourself. Then distract yourself with a job search. I hope the best for you. and I'm really sorry for the pain your heart is going through. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.